Welcome, everyone. I'm Ashish Kaushal, the founder of Consciously Unbiased and the CEO of Higher Talent, organizations that help drive diversity and inclusion within the workplace. Thanks, everyone, for joining today. We have a really special LinkedIn Live for you today. We're doing something a little different. We're going to start off by showing a trailer for a documentary called Fortunate Sons, which we will be hosting a screening next month on our Substack channel. It tells the story of the 1974 graduating class at Harvard, a private military academy for the sons of Los Angeles elite. During COVID, they rekindled friendships with rare emotion and honesty about life, love, loss, and redemption. So now let's watch the trailer.
Happening today, 1968.
We went to a military academy that educated the sons of the city's movers and shakers.
It was a really heavily steeped environment for maleness. There was no room to talk about feeling, no room to talk about sexual identity.
There was this tone of, I gotta prove that I'm a man.
I think like a lot of us, I didn't know who I was.
Stay at home, that is the order tonight as the coronavirus pandemic spreads.
Hey, Chipper.
Hello all, now I got it.
Hey,
bonsoir, bonsoir.
How about us do a 50th reunion?
Hey.
Hey.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you great. Can you hear me?
Hi, Peter.
Haven't changed a bit.
Oh, you're very kind.
Talk about the birth of your first child. Do you have a temper or a dark side that you have to keep in check?
You went to Harvard School and your family's successful. What's the matter with you? I think that's crushed a lot of guys.
If somebody's addicted, then there's some pain that they're trying to cope with.
Back in the day, I was teased constantly, and that sort of sticks with you.
When we were in Harvard School and I meet a girl from Westlake say, Martin, I really like you, but my parents won't let me date Black people.
I think we're all dying to share some of the hurt and pain and experience we've had.
Reunion attendance goal 100%. Next page.
The last few years have opened my eyes to the impact of centuries of racism and misogyny.
The only good thing about COVID has been these Zoom calls and getting to know everybody again.
Stay close to your friends.
How I thought about you, how I thought about me, how I thought about the world, it was all wrong.
I'd be very interested in seeing how an entire class's lives turned out.
Powerful. I'm excited for this to come out in a few weeks. We have 4 men from the documentary with us here today to share more about their story. So let's introduce these amazing guests who are here to talk about what that time in their lives meant to them and how it shaped the men they've become. Peter Jones, he's the writer, director, producer of Fortunate Sons, and Peter's president of Peter Jones Productions. John Manulis, producer of Fortunate Sons, principal Forward Fortune. Patrick McCabe, founder, co-director of Ready to Succeed LA, and then Martin Montague, pilot/engineer. Our producer Elila will drop some links below if you want to follow the film and this on the socials, and also check out the film's websites for updates. And then hopefully you buy a ticket and watch this when it comes out. So can we welcome everyone?
Hi, good morning.
Morning. Can we start out with each of you share your personal memory from the time at Harvard School, and what did this time in your life mean to you?
Well, I have a memory of the one time I could have won a cross-country race. They always walk the track so you can see what the track is. I had to go to the bathroom. I thought we were at the end of the track. I was leading in that race, and I didn't know where the finish line was, so I had to let Charlie Stack, son of Robert Stack of the Untouchables, he won the race, and I came in second. So what I learned is don't self-sabotage, Peter. Walk the whole course of the race. That was a big lesson I learned at Harvard School.
I love that. I love that you use the word self-sabotage, because it really is something we do to ourselves at times. You know?
Yep.
John, would you like to go next?
Not really. I'm trying to think what I learned. It doesn't totally apply, but I think I should have joined the CIA, because I learned that that information is power. I think I ended up having keys to most of the campus at one point because of what I did, but I for the most part realized that I think I realized frailty for the first time, actually, not just because like my own personal frailty of like vomiting on the field during football practice and realizing that probably wasn't my chosen path to perform, but also when the first person in our my lives at my age died during our school year, not a friend of mine, but just someone that was in my periphery vision, and that was really eye-opening in a grounding way.
And by the way, what is Forward Fortune?
Forward Fortune is the company my wife and I run, which is basically tackles projects that we care about, and mostly in terms of social justice and things like that. But all our various projects in different sectors.
Amazing. And Martin?
Well, you're talking about what I got out of the school? I got out of the school.
Personal story from your time at Harvard School, and then
I got a good education, but I really got tired of having my windows on my car broken into, and having to park off campus because of the games and the racism from both sides, the blacks and the whites. It was interesting.
Yeah, and then I'm glad we're sort of moving a little bit away from that, but we still have a lot of work to do. What did this time in your life mean to you, and how's it affected you going forward?
Memories that help shape the future as I encountered more people like that and try to figure out a way to deal with it or get out of the way as best you can.
Yeah.
That's about it, basically it.
That's fair. And Patrick?
Yeah, I guess my one feeling about Harvard School was that I could not stand Harvard School. I came in the 8th grade. Everyone else started in the 7th grade. And the 7th grade was the last year of the military. And there was a bonding element of that for those guys, an alchemy, just that 1 year. And then I came in the 8th grade. I was perfectly happy and well-adjusted in public school. My father, where there were girls and things like that. And my father decided I'd go to Harvard School. So coming in the 8th grade just was a real fish out of water. And I never really kind of acclimated. I was an athlete, so that helped a little bit. But it was not a good experience. It was a bullying culture in the 8th grade, 9th grade, post-military. And it was a very difficult situation for me. And fortunately for me, later on, I became an educator and started a school here in Santa Monica. It was the exact opposite of everything I had experienced early on at Harvard School. It's called New Road School in Santa Monica. I'm the co-founder. So that is overriding to me. And this is a relatively new phenomenon, kind of getting back together with all the fellows in our class and all these marvelous people and filmmakers and everything. So I'm very appreciative of that, but not particularly appreciative of the past.
Mm. And were you guys all friends in school, or did you become friends during COVID?
It's something that happened because of COVID and Zoom, because these guys, most of us hadn't seen each other in 50 years. And people think, 50 years of love and friendship. No, we got out of high school, we lived our lives. COVID happened, Zoom happened, so guys start meeting, and then we get to chronicle it because it's free, recording these conversations. And then I started the one-on-one interviews, and guys got to know each other the 4 years from 2020 leading up to our reunion in 2024. It was just a perfect set of circumstances that facilitated what appeared to look like guys really getting to know each other in real time over those 4 years, so that when we get together in real life, wow, that's how we had the highest attendance in the history of the school for a 50th reunion. It was just because of those circumstances. We're not special.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's amazing. You and I think we all talked about 2 months ago when we were trying to get this live, and literally like a few weeks after that, I was on a phone call, and all of a sudden my cell phone started blowing up, and somebody from my middle school soccer team 30 plus years ago put together a group thread and managed to find everyone and started texting and saying, hey, we should do a reunion. And then they started sharing stories about like their what's been going on in their lives. And I haven't kept in touch with most of them. There's probably 2 or so that I was still in touch with. And it quickly jumped into like, I think because we grew up together and we kind of embarrassed each other and went through this stuff and puberty and all that stuff, we were really open to sharing things that even if you hadn't seen and talked to each other, even some of us weren't even friends, but we were fine with like sharing. And I think this is a common bond that you grew up in a certain way. And it was pretty exciting. I don't know if that was a result of us having this conversation. It just kind of happened, you know? So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, there's a lot back there. I think we all, the coming together was facilitated by that. I think like any school and any group, there were cliques and, you know, friendship groups within the larger group, even though we weren't a particularly large class. There were and so we were acquaintances, or, you know, you like Pat, as an example, was a close friend of a close friend of mine. So I knew Pat, but I didn't like hang out and wasn't close with Pat. I knew Martin. I thought he lived someplace different than he lived, but I had a memory of where he lived that was in the right area, just not on the right street, and things like that. But I think that's very common, you know.
Yeah.
And then we found a different place because of that trust from those years.
Absolutely. You guys all started at Harvard School in 1968, which is a period of civil unrest where so many things were happening, such as the Vietnam War, the assassination of JFK, MLK, and the feminist movement. What were you taught about what it means to be a man, and how did this shape how did this era shape who you became?
Well, I had a resentment when I saw the title, How Men Healed, as the title of the thing. And I thought, Peter, look inside. I want to show you, I brought some images, how I was taught to be a man. My role models, the movie's Fortunate Son, because our fathers were big mockers in the world. And I brought a few pictures to show you the kind of people I was around when I was a little boy. Mm-hmm. Are those available? Yeah, that's me snorkeling. That's Dr. Werner von Braun, who created the V-2 rocket for Adolf Hitler and then came to the United States to lead the United States space program. And we're off snorkeling. Where's another picture? That's me and Ronald Reagan, and he's telling me, boy, now I have my Christmas card for Tip O'Neill. And then funny. And then, okay, that's my dad on the cover of Time magazine, and that's me and Werner von Braun after our wonderful snorkeling trip. So just to show you, I thought men were like these larger than life people. So I developed a lot of low self-esteem, although I couldn't identify it as such. And it took me a long time to figure out my own identity. So that was my journey of healing.
Oh, interesting. I mean, that's pretty amazing. It looks inspiring to me, but I guess it's also kind of intimidating, right?
A little.
Because, and similarly, I go home and there's Diana Ross sitting in my living room. Okay, to me, she's just another person. That's just another life. But in reality, you don't know what to think. I'm with Peter on that one because they didn't know what to think. I'm around those people all the time. Then when you go out to the real world and people live their lives vicariously through them, National Enquirer, it's a whole different ballgame.
Martin, did everyone want to come to your house growing up? Because
I went into Harvard School in 11th grade.
Mm.
I only had one friend in the class. These three guys, I didn't know them. Maybe in passing, yes. Yeah. But no, I mean, only a couple people came to my place, and that was about for 2 seconds. Mm. I lived down the street from several of the guys in the class, but no, I wasn't invited anywhere. I lived basically alone by myself. I with my parents, and I'm an only child. Mm. Now, the school I went to prior to that, everything's taught in French. Again, the same kind of thing. I do live with the woman that was my first date, but that was from the French school.
Wow, that's amazing. Guys, you guys missed out on some great music and things by not going to his house growing up.
That's right. We didn't know what his father did. That's the thing. We're so into ourselves. And Pat talks about this when you're a teenager, you're self-absorbed. But here, Martin Montague's dad is this big DJ. Yeah, we missed out on a lot of music and a lot of interesting stories.
Well, you might have got lucky because a couple of guys would sit in my car that y'all beat up. Okay. I did not you particularly, but listen to my dad on the radio because we're listening to KHJ, him live talking with, I forget who it was. And then my dad's show was tape delay because we sent the tapes from New Mexico. We shared the station with Wolfman Jack. And you're too young for that. And sorry, Ashish.
Yeah,
But the next day, we're sitting there listening to the same conversation. That happened a couple of times, but on the campus in my car. But nobody ever came to my house. There were nothing.
I think
I never went there.
One of the lessons learned for the youth is that, like, be curious and don't just assume people are the way they are, because you might have missed out on. I mean, those have been life-changing, amazing experiences. Just the type of people you're in front of, and the talent and the music, and
right.
Pat, what about you?
Well, again, not to be negative about it. I mean, I do say in the film that I think having these father figures who were larger than life was sort of crushing for a lot of people. And I think that's in the little trailer even. And my dad was a Harvard-trained lawyer who I was relatively close to, but whatever else. And he set a good example. But in terms of friendships and being a man or whatever else, I mean, the real positive thing for me, and I've said this to Peter several times and John, that this reunion process via Zoom and the eventual 50th actual reunion, there isn't a guy in our class that I wouldn't want to be a lifelong friend of. So you had about 100 people or so, and there isn't anybody that I've met after the fact that couldn't have been a very, very close friend of mine. So, you know, you're in high school and your frontal cortex is not fully developed, you know, and there is some sort of self-involvement that goes on in high school. And so I'm a little regretful about that, because these are really, really marvelous guys that I've come to know. And I'm just grateful coming into 70 years old in a couple months that I've had the opportunity to kind of reunite with people I didn't know.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Pat, don't remind us of the 70, okay?
Sorry.
You know, it's interesting because I always say, I tell people that the smartest I ever thought I was probably 18 or 17, and so you think and then life starts hitting you, and you realize how much you don't know.
It's so funny you said that. I always used to think that, you know, I wasn't going to have another good idea after about 18. And you know, that everything was in there just waiting to come out, you know, at some point.
Yep. And it's basically our egos at that age that prevent us from sort of connecting and bonding with people, I think, on a deeper level. John, what are your thoughts around this? How did you feel about that time, and how it shaped who you are?
I think these guys covered it, honestly. I mean, I have some of the same stories as Peter and Martin in terms of home life, you know, which is not meant to be sort of name dropping in this way, but just in terms of our experiences. Our experiences were just our experiences. We had no perspective for them, you know what I mean? So that essentially, whether, you know, Charlton Heston is reading The Night Before Christmas to a group of, you know, 4 generations of people at our house on Christmas Eve every year, that's, as far as I know, that's just establishing the context that family is important, that multi-generational relationships are important, that rituals are important, you know, all that kind of thing. And the values that came from that were not, whether it was Chuck Heston or Gregory Peck or whoever, you know, participating in these family things, it was that it was family, and that it was close friends, and it wasn't business. Even though they were in the business, it was all about something else. And the one thing I learned that way, I think, was that my parents set an example, which is the house was never to be used for business. Even though a lot of their friends were in their business, it was never to be used for that purpose. So our house was sort of, you know, that set my lights, you know, in terms of values.
And John and I are really close now, but I think about it, my house, all it was business, because my father was entertaining, you know, potentates from around the world, and member in the political world, the entertainment world, but he was selling airplanes. And so the house was used really for business. And when John told me that about when you went, and we would go to his Christmas parties, and it would be fun, and it would be more laid back versus my sister and me coming out for 15 minutes and saying, hello, Mr. President, or hello, Princess, whatever. And then going back to our rooms. At the Manulis house, there was singing. And yes, Gregory Peck would read The Night Before Christmas, which is a little different. But the key was there was love and there was joy. And I think that's why, you stayed more normal. It took me a while to get normal.
Welcome to the club.
My house was all business. There
Yeah.
was no Christmas parties, none of this. It was all business. When Diana Ross or what's his name, Motown, I can't think of his name right now.
Barry Gordy.
Those people, Barry Gordy, were there. Pardon?
The chairman.
We're saying, yeah, they were there. It's all business. Yes, I had to return to my room upstairs, just come down, feed my big fish. I had a big, gigantic fish, and go back to what I was doing, which is watching Bill Burr at Animal Kingdom. Thank you.
And you guys didn't move that far away from each other after high school, right? Like you're still kind of close. Is that the case, or is everyone kind of?
You mean geographically?
Yeah.
I lived in Chicago, New York, Washington, D.C., Roanoke, Virginia, where I learned about the real world, as well as in Austin, Texas, to be a TV reporter, and then came back home in the late 80s to build my company. I needed to get out and see the real world because I didn't know what the real world was.
Yeah, clearly, because you guys had such amazing relationships with these high achievers. How did you all reconnect during COVID? Another period of unrest, and what were you most surprised to learn about when you reconnected with each other?
I'll let these guys talk about the what they learned from it. Just really briefly, the way was that someone in our class, John Saliba in our class was intent on having a 50th reunion, which was about 4 years away. But someone in our class early in COVID, I think it was someone in the movie, Trey Scott, said like a month into COVID or 3 weeks in, you guys want to get together on a Zoom and see some familiar faces, because we were all locked down and, you know, going through what everyone in the country was going through. And about 30 guys showed up and enjoyed it so much that they said, let's do it again next month. And that's where, at least for us as filmmakers, the idea that, you know, it's hard enough to get two guys to talk about life honestly, let alone 40, 50, 60 of them. And it just kicked off this thing like, this is too good. We can't ignore this. We can't, you know, this is a crime to let this go. So that's how we all started to come together in COVID, was around that and the planning of the reunion.
Did you have breakout rooms with 40 people talking? Like, how did you moderate that?
Just the way you did in high school.
Nice.
Some people have to be pulled out.
Like, let me
have to be pushed down.
Fair.
Yeah,
and I think there was some trepidation at first because either you like reunions or you don't. Like a lot of times people aren't in the middle on reunions. So now we're going to have a reunion on Zoom. And you're thinking, well, I don't know a lot of these guys. I don't remember a lot of these guys. I don't like some of these guys, you know. So to kind of jump in the water was sort of interesting. But the Zoom aspect, because it's once removed, it's not in person, it's not a big room and you're having a drink with all your guys from high school. It's pretty Zoom. What we're doing right now is relatively impersonal. So I think that lent to people maybe experimenting with it. And John's exactly right. I mean, it just blew my mind talking to these guys after all these years, and really couldn't always do it schedule wise, but it just couldn't get enough of it. It was really interesting to me.
And what was also interesting is that the people we feature in the film, most of them were not people who regularly went to the group Zoom calls. They were guys that I had actually known in elementary school. And we don't say that in the film, but John and I knew each other when we were 4 years old. And the guys in the movie, those are people that I knew going back pre-Harvard school. And the people that we focused on didn't watch the group Zoom calls because they would say, hey, it's a lot of bro talk. It got deeper than that. But there were guys that were resistant to it, but then chose to be in the film because we did one-on-one interviews where they were so open about the darkness in their life and how they got through the darkness.
Oh, wow.
See, for me, Peter found me. And I was actually in a very dark place at the time. I was bugging out to Arizona. And I was extremely resistant with a few cuss words many times, many times. Because I hated that school. I only had the one friend. He's dead now. Why should I go to a reunion with a bunch of backstabbers? But Peter convinced me. Peter helped. It helped me get over the stuff that I was going through, and I really thank him for that. And Peter and I talk once a day now.
Yes.
Okay.
Wow.
You see, And so, and John, when I went to LA for the movie, nice to meet you, John. Never met him before. Sorry, Patrick, but you're okay. You're all right. You're here. I'm good. Okay. It's all right, brother. Don't worry about it.
But your approval means a lot to me, Martin. You know.
Well, and you're not a token. It's okay. I was the token in the school, in the class. You're not a token. It's okay.
No, I mean, I feel that. I mean, do you guys wish you'd done this much earlier in life? Like maybe
it would be possible. I don't think it would have been possible because, guys compete with each other. They show off and look at me, look at me. I think with age, we were just at the perfect age where people aren't worried about how old we look and, oh, I think he's gone around the bend. We're still able to articulate our experiences and then genuinely enjoy that we have a few years ahead of us. Let's do it without our egos leading the charge. So it was just, again, another episode of just kind of perfect timing that could bring out the best in us and make it possible for us to be together.
But I totally wish I could have done it earlier. Not disagreeing with Peter that it would have been possible or would have yielded the same results emotionally or whatever. But, I'm still not proud of the fact that I abandoned close friends, during college and my career after college. And I don't honestly know how I would have done it differently because time, there's only so much time and you're focusing on what you focus on and geography and everything, but it still eats at me that, and what Pat said earlier about, there's no one I wouldn't like to have, a real relationship with at this point from this class. I agree. And I, unconsciously, consciously, whatever, gave up on a number of them that I did have and wish I'd maintained better.
Yeah. I mean, John, I think part of like the fleeing the nest and going to meet new people and doing your own thing, the only way to really change and sort of figure out who you are is to break away from your clique and then come back once you figure out who you are,
Exactly.
Martin, did you
go ahead. You had a question?
Yeah, I was going to say, did you have a lot of guy friends before this?
Sorry, say again.
Did you have a lot of guy friends before you guys did this reunion, like outside of this group?
And I have a very small handful of people, okay? And that's hard to get. A couple of them I worked with. One is a professor, Ryan Embry-Riddle, who he and I became very close friends. We're very tight. But
Here I'm doing
having guy friends, hey, it
Peter,
is what it is. There's a handful of people. I mean, less than this.
Okay.
It's not a bunch of guys we go out and jump around in camaraderie with. In my aviation career, it's most of my flying is by myself, okay, or with a student or something like that. And we're not flying with the airlines or anything like that. And on my medical side, I worked in basically an all-female environment. So, it is what it is. It's great to see these guys here because I'm happy that I made the friendship with these three guys. But I cherish leaving the school.
Yeah.
Okay. And away from the place.
Yeah.
And move on to hopefully greener pastures. We'll see.
No, absolutely. How about you guys? Do you all have a lot of guy friends outside of this group prior to this?
No, my best friend is a psychiatrist up north that I went to college with. I've always bonded. My employees were mostly women. I guess that's, I just got along better with women. I'm gay, but that doesn't mean anything. It just turned out that I was able to develop really closer relationships with women.
Interesting.
I had a lot of guy friends. Not a lot. I mean, I'm very close knit in terms of my real friends, but I have a lot of acquaintances and a lot of friendships. And I always did. And I'm still close with people from college but in a smaller circle. But I like Peter, but not for the same reasons. I think it was because my seduction technique, not to make it sound as manipulative as it sounds, but was always more about becoming friends and close friends than about sort of traditional, romantic seduction. So I had a fair number of female friends.
Okay.
I want to add something because that was my partner, Peter Haldeman, that I met at Harvard School. I have a male friend. He's been my partner since 1973. and he was calling saying, "Move your effing car." I'm like, "Park." That was why I was on the phone. So yes, I have a male friend.
But the thing about friends is trust.
Yes.
Not being able to trust people. Okay, the French school, yeah, it was interesting. The Harvard school learned not to trust. Okay, and then in life further on, you had a hard time learning to trust, and because betrayal, the eighth sin, is rampant. So it's real difficult for me to make friends and keep them. A lot of close acquaintances, but not a true friend. Except like Peter there. Peter and I, it took us 5 years to develop this friendship.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a trust factor.
No, I hear that. I mean, I think because of your experience in high school, you're kind of waiting for the shoe to drop. So you're proactive about it and say, if somebody shows you one signal where they're like not trustworthy, they might have just messed up and it might not have been intentful, but you're like, forget it. Let's just cut it. I don't want to deal with it.
Yeah, where I weigh in on this is having a complete opposite experience in college, going away to a small college in Connecticut. And the 5 other guys who lived on my hall freshman year are my 5 closest friends.
Yeah.
And we've been in each other's weddings. We're all godfathers to each other's kids. And it was just one of those things where it was a point in time where you developed great friendships. And I happen to know that several of them had a kind of a hard time a la 8th grade at Harvard School for me. So sometimes it's just time and place, and it takes time for these things to happen.
So Peter,
I understand.
What ways do you think that this film helps shed some of our biases?
I want to answer. Yeah, I got to answer that. Starting with my own biases, as these guys know, when I was asked about would I be interested in this film on one of the live Zoom calls, I'll try to keep the language clean. I said, guys, who would give about a bunch of middle-aged, privileged white men? Is there a more loathed demographic in the world right now? 2 years later, I apologized. My bias was these guys would not be interesting. I was projecting, thinking, okay, little rich kid with all these famous people, like, would there be anything more boring, and wouldn't people just be bragging and all? I was so wrong, because we are at an age now where we're interested in one another, and no one is spared, no matter where you come from socioeconomically. People go through rough things. And one thing, Martin almost gave us the tagline to our movie when he said, well, Martin, why don't you tell them what you thought the tagline of the movie should be?
Well, basically it's like this. It's fortunate sons, but unfortunately Mother Nature throws the dice. Snake eyes. Good luck.
I like that.
Good luck.
Yeah.
Okay. Because when I'm in the air, sometimes she wakes you up and say, hi, you're not invited. You know? And she'll make sure herself know. Okay, but it's where you're born, when you're born. If Bill Gates was born 10 years later or earlier, it would not have been Bill Gates. It would have been somebody else.
Martin sent me, these dice came from Martin.
Oh, that's awesome. Nice.
I keep them
Yeah,
on.
and I have my set here someplace. Yes, yes. That sits on his desk because it's pure luck. I got lucky. I went from Harvard School, college, to the Navy, to living in my car, to a master's degree. Don't ask me how I got there.
Yeah.
But that's where the universality of this thing comes from. I gotta say, it's from is from everything they just said. I can vouch for Peter's story, by the way, because I was the one he said that to. And when we first talked about maybe doing this movie, and pretty much everyone else in Hollywood said the same thing. So when we tried to, arrange support for making the movie into something bigger than a reunion documentary,
Yeah. I love it. It's funny, during COVID, I had to get a vaccine shot, and at that point it was so hard to get. So if you got one, you didn't want to miss the appointment, because then you'd be stuck in the house for another 6 months. So the state of Virginia had asked me to do a training on biases and how to get over it. And they're like, I can't miss this, guys. And so just do it from the place you're getting the shot from. I'm like, all right. So I could go early, run back. I'm starting to feel it's a shot. And they're asking me how do you get over our biases? I'm like, well, honestly, the first step is to get over yourself, because you got to realize whether somebody's gay, you weren't a choice you weren't a conversation or a thought in that process, right? Or if somebody's doing something, a lot of times it's not about you, so you got to stop making it about you. And if you just squash your ego, then you can actually figure out like how to get along with each other better.
Excellent. Yes.
Yeah.
That's well said, because I can't hide.
Yeah.
Exactly. Neither can I.
Well, you know, it is what it is.
Yep.
But Ashish, your organization says it in the title. I mean, I've always felt that it was totally a conscious choice, because I'm totally aware of, or maybe not totally aware, but I'm certainly aware of my biases and or at least a lot of them, and wanting to challenge them, and being aware that that's scary, depending on what space you're talking about entering into, and whether you're truly comfortable just being, you know, a wallflower in the corner until you become, you know, trusted, without asserting yourself. And that's gone on for decades, ever since high school. I remember it's just really seeking out those challenges and never stopping being afraid of them, honestly.
Yeah. I think you're right on that. And I think that's like the part of it is that you were open to like continue to be curious and push through things you might have believed.
Yeah, it's the conscious part in your organization's name that's so apt.
Yeah. I was also thinking about like the fact that like Peter and Martin, like if you think about like Martin had to let go of his ego to say, I've been wronged by this school, so I'm not gonna like talk to these guys. And Peter had to be like, I'm sure Martin gave you a lot of shit before he agreed to like be part of this, right?
You ought to see the outtakes. You got to see the outtakes.
Yeah.
Oh, I have a file of the telephone conversations. Spoke to Martin. He told me to, you know, go somewhere. And, but I had to get him. And I realized it turned out to really be the darkest day of his life when I called.
Yes, it was the darkest, well, I'll say a really darkest day. And the first thing I told him was to go do what with yourself?
Yes, that's right.
Yes, and he persisted. And I'm grateful for that persistence, because one, we're here. Two, my brain is a lot clearer. We just dovetailed off each other, because there's darkness that we talk about, which are not going to be in the movie. Yeah. But we get really deep in this darkness, and guys don't talk. Nobody gives a shit about our feelings.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. You break the window of my car, but you don't care how I feel about it. You thought it was fun.
Yeah.
Pat's like a role model in this area in terms of tackling new stuff and biases, etc. I'm really impressed with Pat always on this.
Well, I don't know about that. I can't seem to hold a job, so I've had a lot of different careers. I think there's an element of that, but you should know that my post college life was been cleaved in half. I worked in sports and TV for 24 years, and I've been an educator and a social worker for 24 years. So the last 10 years, I started an agency with a partner called Ready to Succeed, and we work with foster youth that are in college. They're the 4% miracle, 4% of all foster youth that are going to graduate college. 90% of my kids are Black or brown, because white kids get adopted and Black and brown kids don't, and they get in the foster systems, in my opinion. So, I wouldn't have predicted it graduating high school 50 years ago, but that's kind of where I am. And but I would reiterate what Peter said along those lines. Who cares about a bunch of rich white people? The film opening up with the little vignettes about everyone's daddy, you know, kind of the lifestyles of the rich and famous thing, I think was on purpose. That drew you in a little bit. You know, those are very famous names, and whatever else, the three of you all have connections that way. But I just come to see it at a different level, just that nobody rides for free in this life. And my foster homeless kids in my program are the least served of the underserved. And they are a definitive contrast to how all of us grew up, really, you know. So there is that kind of blowing up the biases on a lot of different levels. But the idea that you're of the rich and famous and you're white and you're privileged, it doesn't necessarily mean that everything's going to be okay all the time.
Yeah. Patrick, I love that you're doing that, because it's like, I always say no one has a monopoly on intelligence or talent, and you just need to give people a chance, and you're giving them a chance to, and teaching them how to fish and giving them the opportunity to do something.
Yeah, I definitely want to talk to you about higher talent, because, we're ostensibly headhunters for foster kids.
Yeah.
That's what we do, So it's summer internships, first job, first housing, kind of basic stuff. But these students we have, again, 1 in 25 of all foster youth are going to graduate a 4-year school. The man on the street percentage is probably 40 or 45%. So these are very, very special youth, and really, really a pleasure to work with.
Question, Patrick, sorry to interrupt. Since I have my journey, okay, and I was an educator also, please feel free to contact me, because I would love to do some mentoring for some of those kids. That would be fine with me.
Great.
Okay.
Great.
Maybe I can help one or two.
Yeah. People ask me what I do, and I say I run a modeling and mentoring organization it's really a homeless prevention agency, because if we don't support these kids, they can go off in a really bad direction. So I'd be happy to do that, Martin, and talk to you about that.
Not a problem. And I would.
Guys, why do you think? I mean, they say that men have less friends today than they did decades ago. I guess a survey said that almost 20% of men have 0 close friends.
No.
How do you think this happened? Like, how did this happen first?
I think this
lack of trust. Oh, that thing, that cell phone, but lack of trust.
Yeah.
You can't trust anybody.
Yeah. That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I do think it's cell phone too, because Steve Jobs, when he came out with it, I remember the speech. He said, "This isn't a device; it's a relationship." And I think that's
and to some extent, men, we've sort of broken that a little bit with the mold in this, because the guys, this was entirely a connection through talking and going into life in and out of deepness and whatever. But for the most part, men seem to bond over experiences, not over talk. The more you get separated by technology, the less real experiences you have. And I think the less, just in our genetic makeup or whatever, the less bonding, true bonding and trust bonding really happens, and plus the technology of that and the part of social media seems to just exaggerate our worst impulses of fear and ego and stress and self-consciousness and everything, and it sort of makes the most out of all the things that weaken relationships rather than strengthen them.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys went through this, but during COVID, before COVID, I was in the air a lot, traveling, meeting a lot of people, going to conferences, like talking to hundreds of people. I enjoyed it. I fed off of it. And then 2 years into COVID, I was like comfortable not talking to anybody. And then I went to a conference, and I was like, the first day I was like, this sucks. I really don't want to do this anymore. It took me a few days to push myself to get back to who I was. And if you don't actually, I can see a lot of people just kind of, it's easy just to have inertia and just not do anything after COVID, like to push yourself back out there.
Yeah. I craved it personally, and I helped organizations go offline, within days of COVID's lockdown, and help them sort of shift their business, their way of doing business to online models and things like that to keep their service work going. But like Pat said about his roommates or his, dorm mates in college, several of my closest friends are my roommates from the last couple of years of college, and we still get together in person once a year to do things, to go someplace, do stuff together, and don't talk all that much in the middle. I mean, it's all about doing things that keeps us together.
Yeah. Why do you guys think that it's important for men to have friends?
Well, I'll start by saying, for me, I learned with a lot of help from psychiatrists. I struggled with depression 3 times in my life, very, very severely. And I got a lot of help, and it was about trust, and it was about learning to not compare myself to these larger than life figures, but to figure out, like, what's my own identity? Who am I on the inside? And what I'm doing now after, made this documentary, I start school on August 6th at Antioch University. I'm going to get a degree in clinical psychology and become a therapist, because doing my job as a documentary filmmaker, so many times after an interview, anybody from Jerry Seinfeld to Pat McCabe or somebody would say, have you ever thought about becoming a therapist? You'd be good. Because I've learned through my work how to listen and how to earn trust in a short amount of time. And so now for the next 2 years, I'm really looking forward to getting the skill set to be able to help real people in the real world.
Yeah, absolutely. Martin, why do you think it's important for men to have friends or male friends?
If you can find one to trust, like Peter, don't say anything, John or Patrick. Okay. Because the trust factor is, because again, nobody gives a crap about our feelings. All right. And we can be deep. We eat. All right. So if you have somebody you can actually talk to, and they could be different levels. One friend is more you could talk to than the other. That's important to have if you can find that. But that's that trust factor again. When are you going to be betrayed? Or if you are. And that's that is, with some deep dark secrets, that's really hard, let alone somebody that might be attuned to listening to that. Okay. Even if you're attuned to listening to their issues. And people talk to me all the time, Peter. Yes, I get it all the time. I get all kinds of stuff. But the trust factor is to keep my mouth shut.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I also think loneliness leads you down paths that you might not want to go down, and it's not healthy, and it also probably leads to narcissism. If you have no other input besides your own, you end up believing that you know everything, right?
Absolutely true.
Yeah, I'm fundamentally, I think, not antisocial, but comfortable with myself, and have to sort of work to get what I think is great out of friendships and great out of relationships, and to engage with people, because I think it's really important and valuable, and I value it. It's just not sort of built into me. But I think Buckminster Fuller said, we're all just passengers on spaceship Earth. Yeah. And if you think about health as something that ultimately is the whole organism of humanity, and not just our own personal health, male health is really important to our families, our societies, our cultures, the whole world. And so if friendship is a part of health and trust is a part of health, then let's go for it, man. Let's make it happen.
100%.
Well, it's like those kids that Patrick's working with. They got to trust him.
Yeah.
And it's harder for the males to trust, okay, because whatever happened in their life, all right, at a young age, and it destroyed their faith in humanity. And Patrick has to do that. Yeah. And it's not easy. And he is help cleaning up their minds, which is a good thing.
Yeah.
It's interesting you say that 75% of our students, foster students, are female. And there's no scientific explanation for it. 80% maybe in our program, 400 out of 500 are female. Female foster youth are more likely to ask for help than male foster youth. It's just, I've seen it over for 10 years now. I've seen it over and over again. So that as a group study would be very interesting about male versus female in foster world. So
I mean, the cultural reasons for that.
It makes sense to me, because
yes,
I think women are looking for safety and secure attachment more so than men. And so it makes sense that if they didn't have that growing up, that if you're providing that to them, that they're feeling safe.
That's a stereotype that I think might be true. So, but for myself, in terms of this topic, I mean, you come into this life alone and you leave alone, Yeah. So in terms of making friendships, male or female, I've always felt like I'm not a very bright person, but I have very good people skills, as John and Peter know. So they're my old friends. So it's very important to me to I have 2 children. I've been with my wife for 45 years. I mean, I'm into longevity with people, and I have these high school friends. I have my college friends. I have 2 close friends from elementary school. So I do feel like there's something to long-term dedicated friendships that takes work. It takes work to have close friends. So some people aren't hip to that, I think. But I think that's an important thing too.
Yeah. By the way, where did you guys come up with the idea to make this a documentary film? And how did you get dozens of men to speak openly in this film? Because I mean, that's building trust, right? To get them not only to talk on film.
Yeah, that was my job. And there were a lot of emails back and forth, a lot of telephone calls, a lot of, I know we did that interview, but I want you to throw the tape away and all. But every single person signed release, and the first release signed in the film, we deal with Alzheimer's disease. And in the film, you learn that my oldest friend tells me he has Alzheimer's. And I visited him in Virginia, and it was so beautiful. He signed the first release of all the classmates because he said, I want people to understand about this disease. Let's do this. And I mean, so that trust was there going back years, but with the other classmates, I totally understood. We're going to go very deep here, and you have to feel comfortable with that, and also comfortable with your discomfort, as did I, because they would ask me questions and I would answer them because I'm a classmate and I owed them that. I'm not Mr. Director who doesn't disclose, his story too. So it took time, but they were really wonderful. And then the Zoom calls themselves, guys got familiar with one another and felt like it wasn't such a painful experience. So it got a little bit easier.
That's amazing. I love that. And then after talking on Zoom for 4 years, what did it feel like seeing everyone in person?
Gotta watch the film to find out.
Yes, you got to watch the film to find out the end of that story. We're not telling you anything.
I love it. Okay, there's a hook.
Have a nice time with that one.
Two guys in show business. I know. Look at that. Your show business genes are kicking in.
Oh yeah, hey, music business. Grew up in that, Olga. Film business. Oh yes, You taught me well, John.
It's always the person leading from behind there.
Totally. Going back to like serious diseases like Alzheimer's and cancer and stuff, a lot of people feel like they can't talk about it. Do you have any advice for friends on how they can support each other when those challenging times happen?
Great question.
People don't know what to say or even know how to be there.
Just do it, because in the scene where this happens, and I will say it because it's to your question, I asked Johnny, well, how's your health? He says, I'm fit as a fiddle. There's just this one thing, this damn, and he can't find the word. And I jump in and say, Alzheimer's? Yes, Alzheimer's. And it happens in real time. And I just knew, because I've known him for so many years, and he's brilliant. He would never not be able to remember a word. So that triggered me to think, oh my God, Alzheimer's. So what you do is you boldly go forward, because that's your discomfort, but you've got to come from a place of love and support as quick as you can. Tell the truth and tell it quickly.
And be human. Don't be human. Don't be, pro forma.
No.
For sure.
Sorry, Mark.
Yes. No, it's okay. You just have to find a way to understand and learn, because I've seen a lot of that disease and what it does to the patients and it does to the family. And fortunately, in my family, I haven't seen that. Okay. And it's not fun, but it really must be terrible to be losing your mind slowly. I'd hate to do a Vulcan mind meld and find out what's going on. That must be tormenting. Yeah,
for everybody, especially the ones you love too, right?
But I'm terrified of it. It's hard. I said this earlier about, biases in general and tackling them. This is a really tough one. It was a tough one for my father. I watched it happen because he outlived most of his friends, and I feel it really acutely. I've held, several people's hands while they died, and it's just, I don't know. I think Peter and Martin said it well. You just go into it, and you go into it, with honesty and integrity, but it's hard every time.
No, for sure.
Hey, with pain with that one, every single time.
Yeah.
It hurts you inside and you can cry.
And so, Martin, Do you have advice on like how not to shut down and actually have these more difficult conversations and conscious choices? Like, I could tell you, I have tendency to, like, if something's stressful, I may just not address it, and just shut down. Like, how did I'm sure you guys learned this just from the interactions with the group, that you learn to open up and be more honest. And is that just age, or or is it that you make a conscious choice to like deal with things?
First of all, you got to keep moving because of Mother Nature's dice, snake eyes, no matter what. Okay, you can't stop that. Yeah. So you got to deal with it and deal with it. You can't pray that you can get through it. You got to get through it. But also you got to get to a point where you don't give a damn and just talk. Mm-hmm. All right. And if the other person doesn't like it or is offended, that is not your problem.
Yeah.
I mean, taking it when people do bad things to me, which through life there has been, if I could and I can tell them to go stick it, great. Okay. You don't just turn the other cheek. Crap is a bunch of crap. You got to get it out of you. Let them hold on to it. Let them deal with it, because they'll wake up in the middle and say, oh shit, what the hell did I do? And maybe they won't do it again. But I wouldn't consciously go out to try to hurt somebody myself. Period.
No, you wouldn't.
Okay.
Great advice. Anyone else want to add to that?
Oh, silence. Damn. What did I say was pivotal?
What you said was perfect. Waiting to happen, Pat.
These guys
throw the dice.
Discovered, Ashish, that the level of honesty, we're comfortable with the silence. And often in the interviews, there be moments where, we're just sitting there collecting our thoughts and not self-consciously. And that little moment there was like, no one wants to come up with something fake, some homily or something.
Totally.
That's that little silence represents. I could have made a movie with just total silence, but those moments where I knew this is real, this is getting real.
Yeah. It also means that you agree with what he said and you can't really add to it, right? Like, it was well said.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I was going to say you live and learn, but Peter, thank you for disabusing me of that mention. But there is a contrast between positivity at this point for all these guys, class of 74, Harvard School, regardless of their experience, my experience, Martin's experience, Peter, John, and overused word, love between all these fellows a lot of whom were not crazy about each other in high school. There's a lot of negativity in high school and a lot of bullying, and it comes out of a boys' school and all these kind of bad things that happen. But Peter said something really profound earlier that occurred to me recently, that the whole point of the whole reason there is this nice feeling amongst all of us is that no one is comparing themselves to anyone else.
Yeah.
And there's a guy in our class who lived in his car, and there's a guy who currently runs a multi-billion-dollar private equity company. So that's a huge contrast. And 20 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, it might have made a difference. And now it really doesn't make a difference. And there is an acceptance of everybody, because there's less road in front of us, as they say, than behind us. So this level of acceptance is really, really profound.
Yeah, I love that. And I mean, you ultimately realize that we're all not that much different. I always used to say when we first started consciously unbiased that bias is really just a struggle between curiosity and fear of the unknown. And if you let curiosity win and expose yourself to people or things that you think are different, then you'll find out you have a lot more in common than different. And that's I mean, it's one of the reasons I love New York City is I could sit next to a billionaire at a bar, I could sit next to a homeless person next to a bar. I wouldn't know the difference just because they have interesting stories.
Absolutely.
But that contrast that Pat was talking about, living in the car to the billionaire, yeah, I know what it's like to live in Bel Air. I know what it's like to live in your car. But again, that's Mother Nature throwing the dice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you don't know what's going to happen. One day it's great, one day it's crap, and the next day, and you keep moving as best you can. But you treat everybody like you're saying the same.
Yeah, 100%. So we're getting close to time, but I wanted to say, I want to end it with what's your ultimate hope for the film, and then how do you want it to impact people? I'd love each of you to say something about that.
I just want people to learn to listen to one another better.
I love that. And John?
I think that sums it up really well. I think, you know, the film is a great tool because it's emotional, it's dramatic, it's about human beings. It's not a white paper, it's not academic. It's a great tool for reaching people and opening them up to themselves for conversations with their peers, with family, with friends, with their community, and really getting some healing going. And that's what I'd like to see happen from it.
I love it. Martin?
I think telling people that it's okay to talk about your inner feelings in the right setting, that you can find where you can trust, where you're not going to get burnt. But the thing is that you need to. You can't keep it inside. It will eat you up.
Definitely. Well said. And Patrick?
Just that. I always come back to this nobody rides for free idea, you know, and to give a history to a select group of guys, yes, upper middle class, upper class in nature, that there are issues in this world and they got to be talked out and they have to be rectified through communication. And I thought Peter and John just did such a phenomenal job doing that with this little film. I just think the world of them and what they've accomplished with it.
I love it. Yeah, I mean, I think it inspired me to embrace my past because and reconnect with my roots, because I think some things come out of there that will help you fix your future if you actually go back and reconnect with your friends. Because there's, as much as there's trauma growing up, there's also lessons and there's also strength that comes out of that too.
And there is a future. There's, you know, we're not locked at any point. We're, you know, 50, 60, 70, 80. There's time ahead. Make the most of it. We can all change and evolve.
Definitely.
Yeah, well, I might be the only father person here, but you know, it's something I'm trying to pass on to my kids too. That there's a reason for unhappiness, but it can be worked through.
100%.
Throwing the dice.
Yep. Well, thank you all so much, and I hope everyone signs up to watch the film. We'll put a link in the LinkedIn Live, and it was an honor to have you all here today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate it.
Absolutely.